AI never sleeps, and since this week is Christmas, I thought I would get a break, and there would be no breaking AI news to cover, but nope, this week was also absolutely insane. We have a new AI that can generate 3D models which can be broken down into separate parts, and another AI that can create movable 3D models like this. We have a new AI that can design cars. We have another AI that can colorize cartoons, and this is the most consistent one I've seen yet. We have a new open source AI model that legitimately beats GPT-4o and Claude 3.5, and a lot more. So let's jump right in. First up, this AI is already pretty insane. It's called PartGen, and this can take a picture, a 3D model, or even just a text prompt and create a 3D model from this, but this model is made up of individual parts which you can edit separately. So for example, if you input a text prompt, a beagle in a detective's outfit, this is the 3D model that it generates. But this can also be separated into these three parts: the hat, the beagle, and the outfit. Here are some more examples of a text prompt into a 3D model which can be separated into individual parts. So if the input is a gummy bear driving a convertible, it generates this 3D object which can be further broken down into a gummy bear plus the wheels of the car plus the body of the car. Or if you prompt it with a chihuahua wearing a tutu, here's your final result, but you can also separate this into the chihuahua plus the parts of the tutu. Or if your input image is this panda king, it does generate this 3D model, but it also knows to separate this into these parts: the crown, the robe, and the panda. Or if you input an image like this, it generates this 3D object, but you can also break that down into the cushion and the frame of the chair plus the base of the chair. Or if you input an existing 3D object like this, you can also separate this into individual parts like this. This is great if you want to segment a particular thing in an object. Or if you input this toy truck, this is what it generates, but you can also break this down into the wheels and this arm and also other parts of the truck. Or you could also use a prompt to edit specific parts of an existing 3D model. So let's say this is your original 3D model. If you prompt it with magician hat, it will change the hat into a magician's hat. Or if you prompt it with brown hat with police badge, that is indeed the hat that you get. Or here is a red hat with blue texture. Super flexible tool. Here's another example. If this is your original input and you prompt it with pink cup with square bottom, this is what you get. Or if you prompt it with green cup with cute logo, this is what you get. Or here's a yellow cup with a smile on it. And finally, here is a pink cup. If this is your original 3D model and you only want to edit this specific area, well, you can draw a frame around that and then prompt it with red hat and it would change the hat to red. Or here's a cowboy hat, here's a black magic hat, and here's a white hat. So here's how it works. It first takes in a picture or a text prompt or a 3D model, and then it breaks it down into individual parts, like this, using this segmentation process. And then in the next stage, it takes each part and uses another algorithm to recreate it in 3D, while making sure that it looks realistic and that it fits together with the other parts. And then finally, it takes all the completed parts and assembles them into a complete 3D model of whatever you specified. Now, the result right now isn't great. I mean, there are a lot more higher quality 3D generators out there, like Microsoft's Trellis, which I've featured in a previous video, but I hope you can see how cool this specific tool, PartGen, is. This could be very useful for things like video games or animations or architecture and product design. This enables you to create and segment and edit 3D objects really quickly. Now, I'm quite early to this, so right now this is just a preprint. So if you scroll up to the top, it doesn't seem like the code is out yet, but nevertheless, I'll link to this page in the description below for you to read further. Alright, next up, this AI is super useful and it's gonna save people a ton of time. It's called AniDoc, and this can colorize line art videos or photos very consistently just with a reference image. Now, traditionally, animators need to spend a ton of time coloring each frame of an animation by hand. And this, of course, is a very boring and tedious process that doesn't really require any creativity. So, wouldn't it be great if we can get an AI to automate this and save them a ton of time? Well, that's exactly what AniDoc does. So here are a few examples. If you input this reference image of Anya, and then here is the line art video that you want to colorize, after you plug this into the AI, this is what you get. Notice how the colors are very consistent according to the reference image. And then here's another example of Spirited Away. So if you input this reference image, and then this line art video, here is the colorized result. Here are some more examples from Jujutsu Kaisen. So again, if this is your input image, and then this is your line art video, here is the final colorized video. Notice how the colors are very accurate according to your reference image. Here are some more examples. Note that you can also adjust the skin tone of the character by inputting a different reference image. So here, if you want the scene to be sunny, you would input this reference image of a warmer skin tone of this character. Or if you want it to be like a bit cooler in color, you would input this image, and the resulting video is indeed a cooler skin color. Here are some additional examples, and some other examples from Demon Slayer. So, this tool is so useful. The animator no longer needs to colorize each individual frame by hand. You can just generate this line art animation and then just plug in one colorized frame of how you want the characters to look like, and this AI will colorize the whole damn thing. So here's an example where the input reference image is the same, but the line art video is different. And you can see it's able to colorize this character just fine in all three of these scenes. Or here's an example of the opposite. So if the input image is different, notice how especially the hair color of Anya is slightly different across these three input images. But if the line art video is the same, note that this AI will colorize the video differently according to the reference image. So this is a very flexible tool. It can also automatically detect multiple characters in a reference image and then color them accurately, as you can see in these examples. Note that you can also edit the background, again, just from inputting a reference image. So here are three different input images with different backgrounds, and then the line art video is the same. And note how the AI is able to colorize the final video, but using different backgrounds based on the reference image. So really quickly, here's how it works. The pipeline consists of two main stages. In the first stage, it takes a reference image and a frame from the line art video. It uses an algorithm to align the color information from the reference image with the line art image. And so you can see it's aligning the colors for each frame in this line art video. And then in the second stage, it uses another algorithm to basically fill in the colors for the entire animation. And this outputs the final colorized video. Now, if you compare AniDoc with other AI tools which can do the same thing, for example, I also covered ToonCrafter before on my channel, you can see that AniDoc handles the colorization a lot better. It produces much more accurate and consistent colors. Plus, as I said before, it can even handle multiple characters and different backgrounds. So if you scroll to the top of this page, here's the link to their GitHub repo. And for now, they've already released the inference code. So you can follow these instructions and download it to run locally on your computer. There's also a Hugging Face demo over here. So you can also try this out online. Anyways, I will link to this main page in the description below for you to read further. Next up, this AI is also pretty cool. It's called Articulate Anything, and this can take in an image or video or even just a text prompt and create a 3D model from it. But it ain't just any 3D model. It's called an articulated object, so this is a model that can be moved just like in real life. So for example, if you feed it this video of a toilet, it can generate a 3D model where you can open and close the toilet lid. Or if you feed it this video of this swivel chair, it can also generate a 3D model of this chair which can spin around like this. Or if you feed it with this video of a cupboard which you slide in and out, it indeed generates a model of this cupboard which can also slide in and out. Here's an example of a suitcase where you can move the handle up and down. So you can basically take any object from the real world, like a chair or a window or a suitcase, and you can either take a photo or a video of it, or you can even just describe it via a text prompt, and then plug it through this tool to create a digital version of it. And this digital model can be moved around just like in real life. Now, of course, this tool can be very useful for creating things in simulations, video games, or to train robots. So for example, once we've generated a 3D model of this toilet seat, we can then train a robotic arm in this simulation to close the toilet seat. And after training, once you deploy this robotic arm in real life, it does indeed know how to close the toilet seat. Or here's another example. If you generate this 3D object of a laptop which can open and close, you can also train this robotic arm in this virtual simulation to close the laptop. And once you deploy this in real life, the robotic arm indeed knows how to close this laptop. So as you can see, this is a great tool to train robots in simulations on how to interact with objects in real life. Or it could also be used to help design and test new products. Anyways, if you scroll up to the top, they do have a GitHub repo, and this contains all the instructions on how to download and use this locally on your computer. Anyways, I will link to this main page in the description below. Next up, this is pretty crazy. We now have a new open source AI model called Deepseek v3, and this legitimately beats the best models out there in various benchmarks, including Claude 3.5 Sonnet and GPT-4o, which is pretty insane to think about. Finally, it's safe to say we have an open source model that has caught up to the top closed source models out there. So you can see in various benchmarks like MMLU, GPQA Diamond, and especially for coding and math, note how for most of these benchmarks, Deepseek v3 has the highest score. Now, here are some specs of Deepseek v3. It has 671 billion parameters, and it's a mixture of experts. So this is like a team of specialized agents working together to answer a prompt. For example, within this model, there could be an expert that is particularly good at coding, another expert that's particularly good at writing, another one that's good at research, etc., etc. And like I said, it does particularly well in coding and math. And yes, this is legit. This is an open source model that beats the best models out there. So in fact, here's what Andrej Karpathy, ex-engineer at Tesla and OpenAI, has to say about Deepseek. Deepseek making it look easy with an open weights release of a frontier-grade LLM trained on a joke of a budget. Deepseek version 3 looks to be a stronger model at only 11 times less compute. If the model also passes vibe checks, and he himself has done some quick tests, which went well so far, it will be a highly impressive display of research and engineering under resource constraints. Alright, so you might be skeptical since these results are published by Deepseek themselves, but here's another leaderboard called LiveBench by Abacus AI. This is an independent evaluator, and note how Deepseek is ranked all the way up here, higher than Claude 3.5 Sonnet and GPT-4o. It's only behind o1 and Gemini 2.0 Flash Thinking, and both of these are thinking models, so it's a different beast from Deepseek version 3, and also Google's Gemini, which is just pretty damn amazing. So, I don't know, it feels like this Deepseek version 3 model isn't getting a lot of press, even though this is a very impressive achievement. They've outperformed state-of-the-art models while using 11 times less compute compared to the big labs. And I think the biggest takeaway here is that you don't need to just throw a lot of compute at a model to make it smarter. with some smart engineering and design, there's a lot of room to improve existing models even without adding more compute. Anyways, like I said, this is completely open source, so the model weights are already released on GitHub. You can go ahead and run this and tweak this however you want, which is just fantastic. Or instead of downloading this massive model, you can also try it out on their site. So let's test it with a few standard prompts. So if I write which number is bigger, 9.9 or 9.11, it indeed gets it correct. 9.9 is bigger than 9.11. And then if I ask it how many R's are in strawberry, it indeed answers this one correct. There are 3 R's in strawberry. Keep in mind that when I tested the latest version of Claude 3.5 Sonnet, it still could not get this correct. Anyways, I will link to this announcement page in the description below for you to read further. Let me tell you about this awesome tool called ChatLLM by our sponsor Abacus AI. This allows you to use the best AI models out there all in one integrated platform. This includes the latest O1 Preview, O1 Mini, as well as other state-of-the-art models like GPT-4o and Claude Sonnet 3.5. Plus, they have a new Route LLM feature, which automatically picks the best LLM to use based on your prompt. They also have a Search LLM feature, which searches the web to find the latest and most accurate information for you. They also have a Humanize feature where you can set the tone to generate and it would make it sound more human and less AI. You can also generate images right from the chatbot, and they're using the best generator out there, Flux Pro. Plus, you can even generate videos with a single prompt. Plus, it has a really cool artifacts feature, so if you're coding or building something with it, it allows you to view and interact with the app side by side. And you can easily create documents such as PowerPoint presentations just by prompting it. You can also drag and drop PDFs and documents into here for it to analyze. They also have a new feature called AI Engineer, which allows you to create your own custom chatbot fine-tuned on your own custom data or instructions. This is a really powerful way for you to use the best AI models out there all in one platform. Try it out via the link in the description below. Next up, this AI is also very cool. It's called FaceLift, and it can take in one image of a face and turn it into a very high quality 3D head. So here are some examples. If you input this image, here is the head that it generates. Or if you input this image, here's the face that you get. Notice how not only is the face very realistic, but the hair is very high definition. It has very fine details and it looks exactly like the input photo. Here's another example. I mean, it's really impressive how it's able to generate all of this just from one photo of a face. It's really hard to guess the side profile of this person, but it's able to handle this very well. Here's another example of this old man. Again, it looks exactly like the person in the photo. I mean, this is very accurate and high definition. And it even works with a 2D photo like this. Very, very interesting. And here's a very tricky photo. This woman has very voluminous hair that's covering parts of her face. But again, this AI is able to generate this 3D head of her very accurately, just from one photo. Now, with this 3D model, you can also animate the face and get it to talk or make some expressions. So for example, you can use another tool called Live Portrait, which I featured before. This takes an image of a face and with another reference video, it will map the movements and expressions of the video onto the face. If you haven't heard of Live Portrait yet, definitely check out this video where I do a full installation tutorial on the tool. But anyways, back to FaceLift, you can also use Live Portrait to animate a face and then plug those expressions onto this 3D head, and here's what you get. However, note that FaceLift does generate this animation frame by frame, so the result might not look really smooth as you can see here. Here's yet another example using this 2D image, and again you can animate it first using Live Portrait and then map those expressions onto the 3D head generated by FaceLift. But again, because this is generating the video frame by frame, it doesn't really look smooth, as you can see, especially around the edges, so you probably need to use another video editor to smooth this out. Anyways, a very cool tool. At the top here, they do have a GitHub link. but it doesn't look like they've released any code or model weights yet. Anyways, for now, I will link to this page in the description below for you to read further. Alright, next up, this tool is also pretty neat. It's called HSfm, which stands for Humans and Structure from Motion. And here's what it does. This can take a few photos from any scene, and these cameras can be in random positions. They can be pointing in random directions. It doesn't really have to be, aligned or calibrated, but it can take all of these photos and stitch them together to create a 3D model of the whole thing. So here are some examples. If you input these 4 photos of a particular scene, it's able to generate this 3D model of the entire scene. But it's not just any 3D model. The output also includes the people in the scene, including their 3D body shape and their poses, as you can see where my cursor is. Plus, of course, it includes everything else in the scene, like the trees, the buildings, the floor, and the sky. Plus, as you can see, it also includes the cameras that took the original images, including where they were placed and where they were pointing. Here's another example of a person in this dance studio. So for example, note that if I zoom in here, you can see like one of the images that were inputted. And if I adjust the view of this, that is indeed the person that we see here. And note how it captures the pose of this person as well. And you can see it has predicted where all the cameras were placed and where they were pointing in this scene. And if you compare this with other similar tools like Master, which I've featured before on my channel, you can see that HSfm has much higher accuracy in reconstructing the 3D scene. And this tool is unique because it can handle scenes with multiple people and complex environments with a lot of objects. And of course, this can be useful for VR or video games, as well as creating 3D worlds to help robots with navigation and mapping. Anyways, I'll link to this page in the description below where you can read further and also check out some interactive demos. Next up, Unitree just released a wicked demo of their robotic dog called the B2W, and I must say, this is pretty damn impressive. Look at how acrobatic and flexible this thing is. It can do flips in mid-air, and it's blazing fast, even across very difficult or rough terrain. This is just madness. Imagine being chased by one of these, which was instructed to kill you. And then, as you can see here, even if you load it with 40 kilograms, it's still able to easily move around. Or even if someone sits on it, it can still move around very quickly. Imagine your arch enemy riding one of these chasing you down. By the way, if you haven't heard of Unitree, they are a robotics company building the fastest and the most versatile robots out there. They already broke a record for the fastest bipedal robot out there, plus they have another humanoid robot called the Unitree G1, which is also crazy acrobatic, as you can see in this example. Also, in other robotics news, Boston Dynamics has released a video of their Atlas robot doing a backflip, as you can see here, which is pretty impressive. Now, they've been quite secretive of this new version of Atlas. There's not much news on what exactly it can do yet, but the fact that it can now do a backflip while wearing a Santa costume shows how acrobatic and powerful this robot can be. So, in terms of humanoid robots, it seems like most of the attention is given to Tesla's Optimus bot or the Figure robot, which is funded by OpenAI and other big tech companies, but these seem to be significantly behind Unitree or Boston Dynamics' Atlas robot. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I have not seen the Optimus or Figure robot do a backflip or any crazy acrobatic stuff. I've only seen them slowly walk around and sort things. Next up, this new AI is very interesting. It's called ChatGarment, and it can do 3 main things. First, you can feed it an input image of someone wearing clothes, and it'll figure out the sewing pattern and the design of the clothes. Pretty cool. Or you can also input an image as a reference, but prompt it to adjust the clothing further. So for example, if you prompt it with generate the upper body sewing pattern similar to this input image, but with long sleeves, it indeed generates this sewing pattern of this input image, but it makes it with long sleeves. And then finally, you can just prompt it to generate things on a model. So for example, if you get it to generate the sewing pattern code for a short skirt, here is what you get. And then you can also edit it further with prompting. So if you write edit the skirt to mid-calf length without changing its style, here's what you get. Or if you prompt it with change the skirt to ankle length long skirt, this is what you get. Now, using an AI to create sewing templates is a really interesting use case that I never thought of before, but this AI can definitely be very useful. For example, designers could use this to quickly create patterns or sewing designs for new clothes, or this could be used to create or edit realistic clothes for characters in video games or movies, and this is also perfect for e-commerce. Online stores could use this to generate 3D models wearing their clothes. Anyways, if you scroll up to the top, it does say the code is coming soon, so it looks like they are planning to open source this, which is great. For now, I will link to this page in the description below for you to read further. Finally, this is quite a cool use case of AI which I've never heard of before. This is called DrivAerNet++, and this is an open source database with 8,000 AI-generated car designs. Each design is a detailed 3D model of the car, with 26 design parameters that define its components, such as the car length, windscreen inclination, windscreen length, side mirrors position, diffuser angle, etc., etc. And these 8,000 designs cover both gas-powered cars as well as electric vehicles. They've also created simulations for how air flows around each car design, including data on drag, lift, and other aerodynamic metrics. By the way, it took quite a lot of compute to create this database. So they mentioned that it took 3 million CPU hours to produce 39 terabytes of data. So you might be wondering, what's the point of creating such a database? Well, you can train an AI model with this data to generate new car designs based on performance or aesthetics. Or you can train another AI model to predict the aerodynamic performance of any car design. These AIs can speed up the design and prototyping process of cars by a lot. So very cool tool. Now, this dataset is already open sourced under the Creative Commons non-commercial license. Anyways, all the instructions are on this GitHub page on how to access this database. So I'll link to this GitHub repo in the description below. Anyways, that sums up the highlights in AI this week. Even though it's the Christmas holidays, there was still so much insane stuff to cover. Let me know what you think of all of this, and which tool are you most interested in trying out. As always, I will be on the lookout for the top AI news and tools to share with you. So if you enjoyed this video, remember to like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned for more content. Also, there's just so much happening in the world of AI every week. I can't possibly cover everything on my YouTube channel. So to really stay up to date with all that's going on in AI, be sure to subscribe to my free weekly newsletter. The link to that will be in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.